good day to you. Welcome back to the India Shining 12th edition. So once again, we are bringing a lot of positive news with respect to India centricity, things that are happening internationally, nationally, policies, trends, and a whole lot of things. So let's get started quickly. We have some exciting news to start with. Not so very exciting news with respect to macros. So we have the state debt hit something like 71.4 lakh crores in financial year 21-22. So what we are seeing as an a fallout of the COVID is that there's a very little and a GST implementation. We are seeing that the state's debt has been mounting. Now, just like the center, the states have also come up with a lot of welfare measures, but they don't have a matching and commensurate income. So today, after the implementation of GST, you are seeing that the revenue source for states are become very limited. So they have some income sharing from GST, and then they have the income which is exclusively there from land registration, and then they have a tax on petrol, diesel, and fuel, and they also have the sin tax on cigarette and liquor. So the maneuverability available to to the states, especially with the lockdown and restricted movement, seems to have really dried up the resource mobilization for them, and therefore as a consequence you are seeing that the state's debt has hit very high. Now we go to the real positive news is that for the first time some of the things which we set right, we have a habit of making mistakes, but setting right is also a celebration, right? So in that context, I think all of us should be very happy that Air India is finally disinvested. So a lot of justice has been done, and a few people can feel that it has been unjust, but let's look at this background. Air India has been continuously bleeding. One, it's because it was run by government, and also because it's run by government, there was always a possibility of people filling up the post because of their influencers, and then the aircrafts being used at the whims and fancies of the ministers or the Babudam, everyone, and it was continuously bleeding, and the exchequer was constantly paying for it, and it was all getting brushed under the carpet. So there was very little money available for buying new fleet. But one of the big assets of Air India was they had the routes across all over the world, and prime routes, but somehow they were not able to capitalize. Somewhere in the past, government tried to merge both Indian Airlines and Air India. They did that, but still it didn't improve the health of the airline, and it was a continuous slide over a period of time. So we all need to understand that airlines is a very competitive industry, and it's a service oriented industry, and we all know that with a government background, being in service industry has always been challenged. Some years back, the Indian government had disinvested the Hotel Corporation of India, which had some prime properties in Delhi and many other places. Why this is a celebration is it's a very clear trend of things that are to come. So I think there was a promise that the government, the current government in the center, would focus more on governance rather than business. And it's also a very stated, a long time lore in the Indian ethos and the stories that we are carried forward, that gets carried forward from generations, that any government which gets into business is doomed, or the citizens always are short charged whenever a government has been in business. So finally it's a good sign that the government is getting out of business, and of all the things, I think a great justice has been done to Tatas, because J.R.D. Tata was the aviator who started the airline. He built it up very well, and so graciously accepted when, without raising any concerns, accepted when the government took over. And then he also served on the board as the chairman, and subsequently when Indira Gandhi came back to power after the emergency, she also got Ratan Tata on board, not as a chairman though, but as in the board of directors. But all these things never helped. So finally the airline is back to the original owner. We hope that the Maharaja will really be able to twirl his mustache and then be a pride that we can all fly. A an unjust move that was done long back is being set right now. So going to the next thing is an international news. I think there's something about the Indian pride. We know we went to England and we did, we won the test series there, and we have won one more series here. The UK government had refused to accept the Indian vaccinations, and they had put up a lot of stringent rules of the travelers or the Indian citizens going to UK. So we necessarily had to be quarantined for 14 days, and a lot of diplomacy was attempted, but finally UK was holding on to whatever was their stated position. So the first time, I think, the government stood up, and then they actually introduced they issued a reciprocal quarantine order for any UK citizen coming into India, which means they had to quarantine themselves for 10 days, and a whole lot of restrictions. And in the airport, the UK citizens were called out, they were put in a separate line, just a quid pro quo, the same thing that we were being treated. And finally, the United Kingdom, the mighty United Kingdom, which ruled India for more than 200 years, relented. And then finally, India withdrew the specific quarantine that had been issued for the British citizens. So I think this is a very positive sign for India, because as a country, we are evolved and we are beginning to stand up to any injustice being done for the country. And I think even the British Prime Minister came out and said, finally, this is out of the diplomatic tussle. We have something more to look forward. Maybe a trade agreement could be in the offing. But these are once again signs to come of that being an assertive India coming out. The next we come to the national news. In the national news, we'll start from north of India, in fact the northernmost part of India. India's highest altitude TV and radio transmitter has become functional in Ladakh. Now the transmitters are at Leh at an altitude of 3,501 meter or 11,450 feet. These high-powered transmitters of Doordarshan and All India Radio are at Hamtongla near Kargil in Ladakh. The range of transmitters is over 50 kilometers in radius, and it would cover basically a population of around 50,000 in the remote area of Kargil. Now we all know Kargil. It has been utilized in the movies because we fought a battle with Pakistan on Kargil. There are movies named after that. There are a lot of war heroes. But the one sad part that we all forgot was, for so many years, people in Kargil couldn't even watch our national television and listen to our national radio. It's such a pitiable state that we were in. So effectively, though it was part of our country, the people were actually cut off. Now, what is the benefit that we are going to get out of it? Now, this will actually make the educational content available for all the students in the region, because we all know DD and All India Radio, Doordarshan and All India Radio broadcast a lot of educational content, and especially during the COVID times when the schools went online, there were no more the classrooms, people went online. So the content, the national syllabus, the CBSE syllabus content that comes out in Doordarshan and All India Radio would be of great use to the students there. So the good part about this small transmitter, which just covers 50 kilometers radius, is that finally a long lost part of India, which was culturally and even digitally excluded from the growth, is finally included. The next big item is that we have something called as a Ishram Portal. So this is basically a portal for registration of unorganized labor. So within 2 months of its launch, it has seen nearly 4 crore registrations. So unorganized workers in construction, apparel, manufacturing, fishing, gig and platform work, street vending, domestic work, agriculture and allied services, transport sector have all registered in the portal. Now workers who are registered in this portal can take the benefit of various social security measures and employment-based schemes. Workers basically will receive an universal account number, which is called as a digital eShram card, and they can update their profiles particulars through a portal or a mobile app. Now workers registered in the eShram portal, and if in the unfortunate event they meet with an accident, he or she will be eligible for up to 2 lakh on death or permanent disability and 1 lakh on partial disability. So one of the messages that I would like to give to all the entrepreneurs is to try and hire as many people from the unorganized sector, if at all you are thinking of hiring them, of people who are registered in Ishram Portal, because it will not only lend credibility to the whole exercise, but it will also ensure that in the unfortunate event of an accident which leads to death or permanent disability or even partial disability, there is a government security mechanism available, which will also mean that your burden as an entrepreneur, your burden to settlement of these accidents is to a large extent reduced. There are some statistics which are making this whole exercise very, very interesting. Nearly in the Ishram of the 4 crore registrations that have happened so far, nearly 50.02% of the beneficiaries are female and only 49.98% are male. Now, there are two things that, conclusions that we can draw from that. The women folk are more interested in getting employed than the men folk. We don't know what the men folk are doing, number one. Number two, we are also getting to be an equal opportunity employing country. So, maybe the women are stepping out of their home, they are realizing that they have an equal potential. They also see that they can contribute to the family, and the overall social structure is changing for sure. And the education to women, and even those people who lack the education, I think there is some kind of a sense that's coming into a country where they feel that they can all be part of the this growth story that India is building up now. Women have started storming typical male passions like being in the submarines, being in combat roles in army, being helicopter pilots and transport pilots, and now finally even being fighter pilots. So we are progressively seeing that the women who are always the pride of India are beginning to really stamp their authority, and we are to a large extent progressively becoming a gender neutral country. The other data that comes out of it is nearly 65.68% of the 4 crore registrations so far are in the age group of 16 to 40, and nearly 34.52% are in the age group of 40 and above. So once again, if you can see, the demography of our country is very clearly from the data that's available in the unorganized registrations, is that nearly 66% of our country's demography is between 60 to 40 years, which is a very, very productive age. I think the demographic dividend of our country will be felt in the years to come. And that's something that's going to be really interesting. Viewers, please stay tuned. We have a lot more interesting news coming, a lot more things that we can feel proud of being an Indian. Stay connected till we come up with the next episode. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay happy. Thank you so much for watching us.